In the early hours of July 17th, air defense crews at a remote base in the Jordanian desert watched their screens fill with tracks. Ballistic missiles and drones, inbound together. They had minutes, in some cases, seconds. When it was over, 2 American soldiers were dead. A third was missing. 2 days later, searchers found him. Muwafaq Salti Air Base sits in the Azraq Desert of eastern Jordan. For years, a quiet hub for American air power in the region. On July 17th, it became the deadliest single attack on U.S. forces in a war that has now cost 18 American lives. To understand how 3 soldiers died in Jordan, you have to understand the 5 months that led there, and the 11 days that lit the fuse. The war began on February 28, 2026. What started it is a story of its own. But by spring, the United States and Iran were in open conflict across the Gulf. It was a war of firsts. In April, an F-15 went down over Iranian territory. The first American aircraft lost, its crew rescued after a day-long search. American pilots reported drone formations behaving in ways intelligence couldn't fully explain. Shipping in the Strait of Hormuz, 21 miles wide, a third of the world's seaborne oil, became a hostage to every escalation. Then, in June, a ceasefire. Signed, announced, and fragile from the first day. It held for weeks. It did not hold for a month. In early July, Tehran suspended its commitments under the agreement. Washington resumed strikes. And the war came back, faster and wider than before. July 13th, Iran claims hits on 2 tankers in the Strait of Hormuz. Oil markets shudder. July 15th, the U.S. answers with strikes it says are aimed at one thing: keeping the strait open. July 17th, with both sides now widening their target lists, Iran does something it had mostly avoided. It reaches past the Gulf, to Jordan. Not at a warship, not at a drone, at a base full of American soldiers. Why Jordan? Because it was reachable, and because a fixed base in the desert cannot maneuver. Iran did not need to defeat American air defense. It only needed to get past it once. Here is what makes this attack different, and why air defense soldiers will study it. It was layered. Ballistic missiles arrive steep and fast, compressing decisions into seconds. Drones arrive low and slow, hugging terrain, arriving from different directions at different times. Defending against one is hard. Defending against both, at once, is the nightmare scenario. Saturation. The same arithmetic that decides every engagement of this war. The crews at Muwafaq Salti were air defenders themselves. Among them, soldiers of a Patriot battalion deployed from Germany. The men and women whose job is to stop exactly this kind of attack were the ones under it. 2 soldiers were killed that night. 1 more could not be found. For 2 days his family waited while search teams worked the base. On July 19th, the Pentagon changed his status, believed deceased. Out of respect for their families, we're not naming them here. Their names belong to their loved ones, not to a video about how they died. And here is the number that gets less attention. More than 400 Americans wounded across this campaign. Concussions from blast pressure, shrapnel, burns, injuries that don't end when the war does. For every name the Pentagon reads aloud, dozens more came home changed. The American response was already underway, and it accelerated. By July 19th, U.S. aircraft were flying their 9th consecutive night of strikes inside Iran. Washington promised Tehran would, quote, pay for the deaths in Jordan. More fighters surged into the region. Iran answered with new missile waves, and the war kept spreading sideways. Iranian attacks hit power and water infrastructure in Kuwait. Tehran threatened ports across the Gulf. Every neighbor with an American base on its soil is now asking the same question Jordan just answered in the worst way. Being a host has a price. 18 Americans killed, hundreds wounded. A ceasefire that lasted weeks, and a war that has now proven it can reach American soldiers far from any front line. The attack in Jordan didn't change the war's direction, it revealed it. Saturation attacks work. Distance doesn't protect. And every escalation makes the next one easier to choose. As of this recording, the strikes continue on both sides. The numbers in this video may already be out of date. 3 soldiers went to Jordan to defend others from the sky, and gave everything doing it. We mapped the war so it makes sense. But it's not lines on a map. If you want the events behind the headlines, explained, subscribe. We'll keep it honest.